backlash to the 1960s social movement was pretty big. I can't imagine what people who lived during that time experienced. I can't either because my 80s upbringing was totally different from the 60s upbringing. I mean,
Our
the
parents saw a different world than we did. Absolutely.
yeah, it's something that Theas have
Hey,
said on the show
Tracy.
before. Hey Tracy, that I don't. Every generation wants the next generation to live a more easier life than what they had.
Hmm.
So, 60s parents made sure that the 70s parents, I mean 70s kids was brought up easier than the 60s, and it was. But the 70s still sucks. And the 80s still sucks, but in a different way. The 90s still sucks in a different way. 2000 sucks in a different way. Um, we we're this is so funny to me. I thought about this the other day as I'm listening to videos to put on here. It is so amazing that we now have a new era in this world. The uh pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. And I've heard it so many times. I'm thinking, well, dog, that's an era now, I guess. Because every time you have to tell a story before, well, pre-pandemic, this happened and blah, 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 and everything else. Well, now it's post-pandemic and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, one, we're not out of the pandemic, folks. I wish I would stop
Thank
saying
you.
that. It's not, there is not a post-pandemic. We're still in the pandemic. At one point, it actually spiked. Um, it actually spiked for a short period of time, maybe like 2 or 3 months, but it was a spike in COVID. So
This
no,
summer.
we're
And we're dealing with a new strain.
yeah,
Another, um, the BA subvariant has mutated again.
and welcome to flu season.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not out of the woods. We're
No,
better, which again, that's something that we can look at when we talk about social changes in this country. Yes, we're better, but one, look how long it's taken. Two, we're still not satisfied. And three, we shouldn't have to fight for this fight to get what we got to begin with. Um, Captain Sunshine, I'm poor, I'm white, I live below the poverty line, but even poor white people benefit from systemic racism, which is something most whites can't or won't allow themselves to admit to.
very true.
Because, because because it does. I
It's
thought about
hard
this.
for them to imagine.
It's that's the point. It's hard for them to imagine because they don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
It also depends on your media because if your media that or your social media that you deal with is just telling you that every time any minority has a gripe about something and you've never gone through it, it's just that it's a gripe. They always griping, they always complaining, they always making up issues where there's no issue. Eh, how would you know? Because if I was to say the same thing about your race and the gripes and the things that you say, I would be totally wrong. Why? Never been white a day in my life. I have no idea. I have not a clue. Even if I read millions of books written by millions of white people, I still have never lived a white privileged life, a white middle class life, a white poor life. I have no clue. I can only tell you what I have experienced in my lifetime. That's why when I say, and Tracy hates when I say you people, I also always say I never work in exact. So I'm not going to sit there and go, white people, Well, no, not all white people. You know who I'm
Mhm.
talking about when I say
Them, that's
things.
why they mad.
So I'm not want to play that game. Well, I've never done it. First of all, I don't know you. I don't know if you're lying right now. Second of
Mhm.
all, if you haven't done it, okay, move on. This means this conversation is not about you. Maybe about your next door neighbor. Maybe about your aunt and uncle. Maybe about your parents. Maybe about your siblings. So just because it ain't about you, don't mean, okay, don't ever bring it up because you're not talking to me. Okay, cool. Not great. You're one in a few. If there's a horde of snakes coming my direction, I don't have time to try to figure out which one is not going to bite me. That's not how this works. Rest in peace, Dr. Rest in peace, Malcolm X.